Jamrip Sur. Hello, I'm Councilwoman Saro of Long Beach City Council District 6. I want to welcome you to this special day of remembrance and renewal, a celebration of Cambodian American stories, and to wish you a very happy new year. During the annual Cambodian, Thai, and Laos New Year, which begins on April 14 and ends on April 16th, Southeast Asians everywhere celebrate the arrival of spring. But for some, April 17, 1975 marks the day in which the lives of Cambodians everywhere were tragically changed forever when the Khmer Rouge marched into the capital, Phnom Penh, and evacuated the entire population. They forced people into labor camps and murdered government officials, doctors, artists, and scholars, among many others. It became known as Year Zero. Under the Khmer Rouge regime, it has been estimated that over 2 million lives were lost due to execution and starvation. Several 100,000 Cambodians later fled their country and became refugees, resettling in countries all over the world in the hopes of rebuilding their lives. Long Beach, California became a city that still has the largest Cambodian population in the United States of America. As daughters and sons of survivors, it is important that we never forget what happened and that we remember the lives lost during the genocide. But more importantly, we must honor and celebrate the resiliency of the Khmer spirit. We will always carry our history as we move forward to rebuild, restore, and renew. To look towards a future made stronger by its past, and to take pride in a generation that can now flourish beyond its scars. A generation that now has its own path to forge, its own stories to tell. Thank you for joining us and enjoy our program. Jamrip Lia.
Don't let your heritage be past tense. Think of your great-grandmother in woven silk, countless threads through her hands, weaving lines intersecting her face and palms, her children who compose your motherland fabric. Songsters of Cambodia's golden age, Rosre Sotias and Sisamut Bengran, blare from past decades in static, singing across time through a rusty accordion. We have numerous words for eat. See, nyam, hope, chan, bisa. Each bite is love. Ye asks if you are hungry because it took 30 years to say, I love you, like an American. You imagine a future not yet past of grandfather's garden in Georgia, untended in the southern red clay, where fruit trees have taken root. Someday you will taste dragon fruit on par with his on the streets of Phnom Penh. Da's face is bright when he sees you enjoy its flesh studded with seeds. He says, I wish I could be here when the apple trees bloom.
I was born in a remote village of Prerumdeng, Khat Preveng, which is bordering Vietnam. I was born on January 10, 1940, But my oldest brother took me in, and I lived with him and his family. I didn't have a birth certificate from the town I was born. Then my brother changed my birth certificate to January 10, 1942, 2 years younger, so that I can attend elementary school. The village I was born, there's only about 5 homes. There's no village chief, no school. I have to travel far to attend school, so that's why I moved and live with my oldest brother, NJ. The Agency of International Development offer a large number of scholarships to the students in the same school. They select the best one among them. And I was so excited to come. At that school, they taught us French, no English at all. Hamburger is my first food that I eat and taste. At the time, I couldn't pronounce hamburger. When you see the word, you say hamburger, hamburger. I go to a restaurant or to a fast food, I'm afraid to order things, because I couldn't pronounce them right. Especially hamburger, it's so hard to pronounce it. When we got the scholarship and we get to America, we were warned not to drive an automobile and not to marry an American woman. Plus, they want us to fix our brain into studying school only, not to go out and have fun. I went to Georgetown University in the winter of 1962. When I was at Georgetown University, I remember we went to a movie called West Side Story, a double date actually. They took us to the drive-in movie. As we went there, my girlfriend said, tell us to duck down. That means don't show my face, our face. They duck down. I said, why? They tell me to duck down so that the movie theater would see that we are foreigners coming into the movie. I feel normal, because I thought that this is the way they do it in America. So summer '63, I came to Cal State Long Beach. I teamed with 3 other friends, Sarit Ai, Som Prum, and Mamatau. And we rented a 2-bedroom apartment for $200 a month. And you imagine $200 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment at the time? Since we split the rent, I can afford to take trombone lessons. Some other friend took some other lesson. And Sarit, our roommate, is a drummer. He practiced drumming. The Khmer Student Association was formed in 1959 by previous students who came before I did. The feeling of loneliness, of homesick, and the urge to see and meet other fellow Cambodians led to the formation of the association. Sarit Ai, known as Sam Ramsek, my roommate, was its president in 1962. He was the drummer in our musical band. In 1967, I was graduated with the Bachelor of Science in Industrial Arts and Technology, and I have to go home. Sad because I have to say goodbye to my girlfriends, my roommates, and the community. Joy because I'm happy to return home. I returned home to Cambodia in 1967. My first job was at Phnom Penh Royal Railway. I was hired as an engineer trainee in charge of designing, studying, and producing cast iron parts for locomotive. And sometime in '69, I got hired as a technical professor at the National School of Arts and Trade in Phnom Penh. And then I got married in 1970 to my lovely wife, Sophie J. And this is our first anniversary. So we fall in love and we get married. 2 weeks after we got married, Cambodia took some political changes. My father-in-law, who is special assistant to Prince Sihanouk, was arrested and put in military detention center. As the war progressed, the Khmer Rouge took over more and more territories of Cambodia. And I, among all the staff in the school, were designated as civil militias to carry a semi-automatic carbine rifle, taking turns protecting soft targets around the city. Phnom Penh began to be bombarded with rockets almost every night. I didn't feel safe anymore. My wife and I, we discussed about leaving Phnom Penh to a different country, safe until the war ended. But the war never ended. We have to leave. I bought a ticket to go to Paris. Then I applied for French visa to go to Paris. When I got that visa, then I bought another ticket to come to LA. I got the visa. But when you get to Long Beach, I got approved for 6 months stay for the whole family. And can you imagine on the tourist visa, you cannot work on a good job at all. I applied for political asylum because my father-in-law was arrested, but it was denied. Since it was denied, I had to find all the means to apply for permanent residence. We drove around and I saw an old closed service station. And I rent that station, remodel it, and open to sell tactical gas and repair cars. It's hard to get business. We save enough money. My wife helping me pumping gas, and I do car repair. And then I reapply for my permanent residence again. They finally approved my permanent residence. In 1975, you know that the Khmer Rouge took over Phnom Penh, and news was so scarce, it's hard to get news. The first wave of Cambodian refugees began to come to the States, and they were processed to Camp Pendleton and San Diego County. We started visiting them, bringing them food, clothing, and try to connect them with families, if we can find one, and also with their sponsors, if anybody wants to sponsor them. We start to form the Cambodian Association of Southern California, which is later on becoming the Cambodian Association of America. The first contingent was mostly military, government people, well-educated people. Those people, they can acculturate to American life so easy. So the second wave, some are educated, some are not educated. The not educated, we have to acculturate them to American life. We have to explain to them how to use the bathroom, this is the kitchen, how to open the stove, how to use the refrigerator. We have to explain to them so that they can carry on their daily life.
Do you have any advice to pass down to the young generation?
To aim high, create a plan, stick to your plan, follow through with your plan, and don't give up. Remember our Khmer proverb, drop, it's full.
There's no longer a tree in front of the library. There's only like one big chunk of tree, but there used to be a huge one. That little area right there, we used to call that Little Cambodia. Because when I was a student in 1996 to 2000, that whole area right there, if you were looking for a Cambodian student, they were just there. It was like an ethnic conclave.
So my name is Vincent Puth. I was born here in Long Beach. I was raised in Long Beach kid. We knew it as the east side of Long Beach. Of course, because of Snoop Dogg and all the hip-hop culture that kind of influences it. So one of the few things that is pretty unique is a Long Beach Unified student, went through the whole system and came to Poly High School. And now I'm the activities director here back at Long Beach Poly High School, where it all started.
That was me my senior year. So my hair I was bald back then, which is huge. Because if you're a Cambodian, you were bald back in the 90s. I was just trying to be somewhat of a rebel. And I shaved it, and then right after that, I went to an in-sync mode. You can see that, and then here I am right here.
There's so many different facets of like life that has happened. I would say from my unique experience, my parents immigrated here and were very fortunate to be sponsored with a family that was gonna allow them to meet up with my uncles and my aunts who were already here. And we all kind of found our way here to Long Beach. My parents split up. My dad decided to stay in Cambodia, pursue his dreams, do his own thing. And my mom was here trying to raise us as a single parent mother. And I had a counselor that said, I'm gonna put you in an elective that you probably don't even wanna be in. It's gonna be Black history, right? I trusted her because she always gave me great advice, and I went in as the only non-Black student in Mr. Tony Rogers' class. When I went there, he said, you're gonna go to camp because you're a 10th grader. Everybody at Poly goes, and I want you to go. When I went to that camp, I was still kind of running with the wrong crowd. We were just trying to be hard and so on. And I remember telling one of my friends, like, hey, Mr. Rogers is making me go to the camp. My mom said, I can go, I'm gonna go. It's the weekend. And he looked at me and he's like, why? Like, don't go, dude, it's stupid. Like, you're gonna give up your Friday and Saturday and Sunday to go to a stupid camp? And he didn't go. So I was like, whatever, I went. I had a great time. I've learned a lot of things. I met some great people. It was a life-changing experience for me because it made me go, there's some positive activities I can be involved in. I didn't always have to gravitate and be a magnet to the negative activities. So I come back down and my mom's picking me up here in front of Polly. And she said, you remember your friend? And I was like, yeah. I was like, he didn't come to camp, so why are you asking me about him? And she looked at me, she's like, he got shot. He died. And that hit me because I was like, he was supposed to go to camp with me. Like, that was a life-changing experience because it was at that moment that I realized it wasn't so much he didn't have the same opportunity. It was unfortunate. It made me wake up and go, I could have been with him. I remember my friends saying that was the dumbest thing that I could have done was go to the camp. And I look at it as like that was the smartest thing I did was go to that camp. That's what kind of sparked my activism moment. I'm looking at the different names of the different ASB presidents. I have it here on my table. It's the plaque of who's been ASB president. And I realized that my name here is the one that stood out as the first Cambodian president at Poly High School. And I did a little research. I asked Terry Spears, who's the former activities director, and she said I was the first Cambodian ASB president of Long Beach Poly High School, which is pretty, amazing on my end because of the fact that we're in Cambodia town and there's so many Cambodian students that has passed here. I think if anybody who is a Poly alum from any time, right, the first thing you'll say is, nope, you will not ever notice it because we're so diverse here and we always look at it, everybody's just one big Poly family. And the reason why I will say that I didn't notice it is because the first group that celebrated me winning were the Samoan students here on campus. And the reason being was when they announced that I won, the first thing I did was I was sea walking on the stage. I was like, I won. I started sea walking and I looked into the crowd. And of course it was the Samoan populations. I was just like, hey, get it. It's significant in the sense that it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, Poly's allowing not only the successful Cambodian students, but leadership roles here.
What I wanted to show you guys here is this beautiful mural that demonstrates the history of Poly and how it has progressed and how it has become inclusive of all the different changes. So BAM, right? It acknowledges the history of how the Cambodian community is right there along with the soccer, athletic, volleyball.
When I got into Berkeley, my whole family, whether it was from my dad's side, my mom's side, my mom, my sister, and everybody, they all were just like, there you go. There's a story I want to tell that really ties in my experience as a Cambodian student. When I went to Berkeley, my roommate that time, Wendell, was like, go check on your grandma because she was folding her underwear. When I went downstairs to kind of check on my grandma, I realized that she was crying as she was folding her underwear. And to me, I think at that moment, it was when I realized the weight of like my grandmother and my family saying like, you gotta make it because our little family trials and tribulation has come to a point where we've given you this opportunity. Please take it and run with it. As I went through college, she did a lot of things behind the scene that made me go, wow. I had to find ways to pay rent. I had to find ways to get food. So she made sure like my uncle and my aunt who lived in San Jose, which is about an hour away from Berkeley, would load up like their rice and soy sauce and Spam, Chinese sausage. And when I went once a month, they had it ready for me. It meant the world. It was summertime and I couldn't pay rent. You can only pull a certain amount of loan out from the emergency loan department at the financial aid group. And my grandmother had my uncles and my aunt pawn their wedding rings so that she can get the money and give it to me so I can pay for rent. And then they worked extra overtime to buy back their wedding rings without telling me. It's pretty amazing to hear that my grandmother was the mastermind behind all of that. Right after I was finished with college and everything, I'm still back in Long Beach. I'm still having to find a job. I'm still trying to help my mom, who's still a single mom. So here I am, graduate from Berkeley, first year in law school, and just saying I'm gonna volunteer. Working with these kids, and I remember this one kid sat there, and we had a whole week of doing different activities. And me breaking down barriers, telling them who I am, what I went through, some of the funny jokes that I had. And they just loved it, being there with me for a whole week. And so this kid, his name is Ricardo, he said, Vincent. I was like, what's up? And he was like, you know what you should be? I was like, what? He said, you should be a teacher because I listen to you. And I was like, you sure? And he's like, yeah. And then I told my mom, should I be a teacher? My mom was like, you need to be a teacher. Teaching is probably one of the toughest profession, out there. I would say even probably one of, the toughest profession to stay in, but I stuck with it. And here I'm at now at Poly High School, I guess where it all started again.
You got a great guy here. I appreciate working side by side with Mr. Pooh. He's very dedicated to his community and to Long Beach Poly, so we're very blessed to have him.
It's good to have him say that because He is Mr. Poly High School. If you were to ask anybody, you know, who's Long Beach Poly, who's Mr. Long Beach Poly High School, they would say Rob Schott.
Anything that involves student body life, I have to be involved in, including meeting with the administration team on how to keep the morale up, how to keep the kids going, the teachers going. I feel like if I'm not happy about it, if I'm not smiling and I'm not making, you know, this the best place to be at, then who else is gonna do that? I didn't get here on my own. There's so many people. I can name a list that's probably, you know, pages and pages long of who has helped me. My success is the success of those who invested in not just me, but other people around me, my community, my family, friends. My success, I think, is a reflection of the success of our community and folks that has, you know, continued to work with all of us.
It's your boy G-Funk Supreme. Happy Cambodian New Year.
See, I've been having dreams lately. I swear this shit was real or maybe I'm just losing my mind. I'm coming straight up out the east side with love, baby. Reporting live as I look up to the hills and I visualize this lifestyle. That's not to say that mine ain't great, but shit could be better. Shit could be sweeter. Sun could shine brighter, man, the days will last longer. See, the skies could be clearer and the grass would be greener.
I was actually born in Arizona, but I moved to Long Beach when I was like 1, so I pretty much was raised in Long Beach my whole life. My parents fled from the war-torn countries down over here to, you know, try to find better opportunities. But my dad came here first. He got sponsored, and I remember he had told me that whoever sponsored him asked him where he wanted to go, and he just mentioned somewhere like home where it was hot and it was kind of dry and humid. So they had shipped him out to Arizona first just to get settled down, you know, get a job and, you know, get things going. My mother came with my older brother and my older sister, maybe like mid-1980s. You know, we stayed there for another year until we moved to Long Beach. I think, you know, because my parents are from a different generation, I think their idea of like what they wanted for me was just opportunity. You know, they wanted something better than what they thought they had at home. So coming over here, they felt like going to school, get a job, go work for somebody and, you know, saying that that was an opportunity. I think understanding that like working hard is something that was parallel to what they wanted me to do to try to just, you know, work for a better life than, you know, what they had back home. What people might have been accustomed to back home is, you know, poverty. You know, it's really fighting to literally have a meal. And to come over here, to think that you have a better opportunity, to think that you leaving a war, to wonder like, all right, I'm about to go to a land that's just full of opportunity, full of riches and glitz and glamour, but really you're going to another war, which is one of other races, one of discrimination, one with gang violence, one with drug use, one with poverty and not learning the language and all that. So in a sense, that is another war of you just fighting to fit in and trying to find your own identity. Do I find myself lucky for escaping gang life? I wouldn't say I'm lucky. I just felt like, you know, I was conscious and I was fortunate to have people around me to kind of like guide me in a different direction and give me the choice to like, you know, have a choice.
Look, no opportunity coming, I feel it deep in my soul. I wear my heart on my sleeve.
So I was in the 4th grade. I stole a couple of sheets of like insect stickers that I see my teacher had put out. I felt like he had a lot anyway, so I was like, a couple of sheets ain't gonna hurt him, you know what I'm saying? And my sister, she was she had took some because she was gonna tell on me that I stole it. But anyway, I gave her some. And then I noticed that she came home selling these stickers for like 25 cents each, for like a little square that had like 4 insects on it. You make it $5, $10 a day, so I said, I'm gonna cut the price. I started selling it for like 10 cents each. You know, I didn't make as much as her, but it was selling more frequently. And so that was like kind of like my first taste of like, I guess being a little entrepreneur. Don't steal to start your business, by the way. I did go to college, I did graduate, and you know, my parents is definitely there. They was definitely proud. I think, you know, for anybody, like, I think that's a big accomplishment. They felt like having a degree was an opportunity or something like a segue to a better life. My mom's a fan of my music. My dad knows that I rap too. I think Cambodian rap music actually been around for a while because I was listening to stuff since like middle school. There was like, I don't know, Khmer Kid. There was like Praj. There was like, you know, all these other rap songs from Cambodians that I heard. What I want people to take most of my journey, I want people to look at me as an example, as somebody that did whatever it took by any means necessary, that I was fearless. I just took the opportunity and ran with it. And at all costs, and I did it the way I wanted to do it. And even through failure, time and time again, I was never scared to just get back up, keep trying. I think that's the biggest thing, and hopefully that I can give them hope and inspire them to just keep doing the same thing and yeah, you know, turn up.
Yeah.
Savannah M, a boxer who likes to take opponents down and finish with ground and pound.
It's very much like art because when you're studying art, you're studying from the masters.
You can see Savannah M's trying to drop down. She's got her hands clasped.
Your only focus is you and the person in front of you.
That nice early takedown from the Cambodian American.
He fights tonight out of California. Here is Sovankesa, the Prince of Cambodia, Song.
A lot of us fighters, we call it poetry in motion. So that's how I expressed my emotions, through fighting.
Tell them to close the distance. Yeah, because they know Sam's good with his kicks.
I'm not hitting it for the fame or for the money. I do it for the love and me because it makes me happy. And it also expresses who I am as a person, and also for our homeland, our country of Cambodia.
Sovankesa Som, nicknamed the Prince of Cambodia, and he grew up in the heart of Cambodia town in Long Beach, California. Did you know there was a Cambodia town there? I did not.
A lot of things stick out to me, especially being born and raised in Long Beach, you know, also known as Cambodia town. Growing up in the Cambodian community, it's just, we're very tight-knit and we're packed and we really like to help each other out. And, you know, I try to involve myself in the community. That's why I got into fighting. You know, every time I go fight, I always get blessed by my mom. She can't watch me fight though. Like, that's what she would never do. At first, they were not that they weren't supportive. I mean, as parents, they're always gonna be supportive, but they just they was like, are you sure you wanna be a fighter? Like, you know, you can get hurt if you break your leg, you know, who's gonna take care of that? Who's gonna take care of you? But, you know, as time went on, then they started to see like, it's what made me happy and it's what I love to do, and, you know, I'm not gonna stop doing it, so.
I was born in Long Beach, but I didn't really grow up in Long Beach. Like, I lived around Pomona for a while, Ontario, and then we even moved to the Midwest for a good chunk of my life. And then just over the years, especially having moved over to the Midwest where there's absolutely nothing like that, no like Khmer restaurants. We barely were, maybe there was like a Chinese restaurant. That was the closest thing to, you know, eating Asian food. I missed going to temple with grandparents and eating Khmer food, and I just wanted to delve more into the culture, you know. For a while, my mom being a single mother, it would be easy for her to pawn us off to our grandparents or uncles to be babysat. We had moments where we were very poor, and then we'd have moments where my mom was doing well. Yeah, it's crazy to think of the things that she went through, and then to see the person that she is. You know, if you meet her, you don't think like, oh, this person survived a genocide. So, you know, she's a sweetheart, and, you know, with her wounds and her traumas, but still, my mom is adorable. I feel like I've gotten a lot closer with my family. My mom is incredibly supportive. She's scared for me, obviously, but she's 100%, you know, got my back. And my brothers and sister, they think it's awesome. Everyone just thinks it's like so cool. Anyone I tell that I fight, they're always like, what? Because I'm very unassuming, very quiet, soft-spoken, shy.
Mom, Crystal in the past, she likes to grab onto that head. She likes to kind of just protect herself, alleviate a little bit of damage. But Savannah's able to pop her head out now. She's dropping.
Started at the boxing gym called DG Boxing in Long Beach. My friend at the time, he was training there, and he knew I wanted to do something to get into shape, and he introduced me to the coach there, and I had like a free class. And you know, I never had the money to pay for any kind of membership, but the coach DG was sweet enough to let me train there for free. And then eventually my friend who introduced me to DG told me where I can train jiu-jitsu for free, which is where at the Cal State Long Beach, there was a jiu-jitsu club. So I would just skate over there. That was around 2014, I think, where it started coming to my mind that I can do MMA. So I started with just Western style boxing, so just punches. And eventually, you know, since I'm competing as a mixed martial artist, I had to add in the grappling aspect, which is, you know, typically Brazilian jiu-jitsu and wrestling, even judo, things like that. And also adding in kicks and elbows. So I studied kickboxing, Muay Thai, and also I trained at a school in Long Beach called Long Beach Kickboxing for Patadas that I
had gotten into a fight, like a little argument with a family member. I got really angry, and then I just left the house just to like let off some steam. And I come by this Khmer kickboxing gym over there on Anaheim Street. It's called Long Beach Khmer Kickboxing. That's my very first gym ever. That's where I started fighting, where I started training, where I started my whole entire career. I walked by the gym, and then there's a man there. His name is Omri Ban. He calls me to come in, and we talk, you know, we chatted up and everything. And he's like, okay, well, I don't want you in the streets. I don't want you doing anything that, you know, you will regret or that will mess up your life. So every day starting from now, I want you to come and train with me. And then ever since then, I became a 3-time champion under his belt, but very, very humble man, and he took me in. He took me in, and he guided me, trained me, and then led me to where I am today as far as like my fighting career.
Since fighting for one championship, I've been able to kind of grown a bigger like Cambodian fan base. So people have been reaching out to me. You know, my Khmer teacher, she lives in Battambang, so you know, she's always teaching me all kinds of cool things.
When you know you're not doing it just for yourself, then there's more joy into that. There's more happiness into it. But as far as like really doing it, I don't do it for me. I do it for everybody else, for everybody, to entertain everybody else, for them to see, for our people to see, like, oh wow, like we have a Khmer kid in the States, you know, representing our Khmer martial arts. I continue fighting for our people, and that will never stop, and I will continue to do that until I can't do it no more.
When you think of Cambodian woman or Khmer girl, you don't think of like this badass martial artist, woman, warrior. You think of someone who's kind of quiet, very polite. You know, because I've always had such a hard time with any kind of confrontation outside the cage, I would just do my best to avoid confrontation. This is forcing me to deal with confrontation up front and personal. I'm locked inside this space with confrontation. When I see someone like Tarat or No Srepo, I would just like that to be kind of the model for young girls to feel empowered and strong and want to do things like martial arts.
By way of technical knockout, Sofanari
It's a TKO to her record, and it's the 3rd time in her career that she has stopped an opponent in the very first round.
My name is Kunchap. I'm a U.S. Navy commander, currently serving active duty on deployment to the Middle East. I was born in Cambodia, live in the village out in the rice field for the first 8 years of my life. No running water, no electricity. I still love airplanes till today. I can sit at the airport all day long and watch planes. We were in the village still, 8 years old. So the plane that flew by that I saw the first time was a prop plane, and yeah, my first impression was, not that this thing dropped bomb and killed people, it's like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. It didn't make me want to fly then, but I've always been fascinated by airplanes. At 8 years old, we moved to the city. In 1975, my dad, who is a diplomat, he got assigned to the Khmer embassy in New Delhi, India. Of course, by 1975, the war had ended, and we had to go back home and close up the embassy. So on our way back home to Cambodia, our connection was in Bangkok, Thailand. When we got there, of course, there's no flight going to Cambodia, no news whatsoever. So many families that also from other countries serving the Cambodian embassy also got stuck in Thailand. We were there for several months. We were in contact with the U.S. Embassy, and after about 3 months, he told us, that we have to apply for refugee status because there's no news coming out of Cambodia at that time, so we didn't know what was going on. They moved us from Bangkok to a refugee camp in Thailand, Otapao. It's about 2.5 hours, 3 hours away from Bangkok. But after a while, they say we can't go back to Cambodia, so they start moving people from the refugee camp to Camp Pendleton. That was our first stop in the US. Landed in LAX and then bus us to Camp Pendleton. Finally, that's how I arrived in the US, and I've been in San Diego ever since. We do have families that were in Cambodia. We did not know what was happening with them for about 4 or 5 years. So we finally got letters, and we also found out that we've lost probably half of our relatives through the killing field. I miss Khmer so much that I live my life in my mind every day. As a child, I carried French bread, 5 o'clock in the morning. Every time I go back, I can navigate the whole place by myself, not being there for over 20 years plus. The military is something that's always been very prestigious to me. I wanted to be a pilot also, so it was an opportunity to get to be an airline pilot was through the military. So I did my research, and so when I joined, my family also did not realize that, there's a potential of me going to war. It's just about a career path to get to where I want to go. So I joined in '85, went to boot camp in Florida, went to air crew school. When I was at my first squadron, I was taught by my commanding officer that the Navy is not about flying, it's not about driving ships, it's not about weapon system or any of that. The most important thing about the Navy is the people. So I got to see things that most people don't get to see, but it always stuck with me that it's all about people. In 1985, my first squadron was tough. My chief, my E7, did not like me because I was brown. It didn't impact me because I had so much support surround me at that time. I was the first wave of refugees coming out here. When I went to high school, I was the only one. When I went to San Diego State, I was the only one. I lived most of my life being the only one. A family survived the killing field. We can do anything. Not in a million years when I was a child thinking I would be in the US Navy, and we need to push our children to feel like they're very blessed to be here. I understand my elders' mindset, but I also understand my younger generation mindset. So I'm stuck in the middle. Sometimes it's a curse. I can be an American as you can be, but I can be as Khmer as you can be also. So I cherish both, and I think having both culture deeply rooted in me is truly important. When people say thank you for your service, I really thank America for this opportunity to serve. And the taxpayers pay our salaries, so I thank them. So I try to tell them, it is an honor to serve this country, but it's something that I think people should experience only because the concept of teamwork, sacrifice is important.
My name is Major Murata Phillips. I'm one of the first Cambodian officer in the United States Marine Corps. I was born in the jungle of Cambodia, and I spent my early childhood during the killing field genocide. My family escaped Cambodia in 1979, and we took refuge in Thailand until 1981. From there, we moved to Boston, Massachusetts. In 1994, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, and right after 9/11, I got my commissions in the Marine Corps Officer Program. Being one of the first Cambodian officer in the Marine Corps, it's very challenging and it's very lonely. It can be lonely when you're different. Biggest difference is just mannerism and the way we approach complex problems. Being a Marine is definitely one of the greatest privilege, and it's not easy. You have to earn it, and if you pass and you graduate the rite of passage, then you get to call yourself Marine, regardless where you come from. I believe the most difficult thing about being a Marine, this is true for all nationality or ethnic groups or race. Being small is very, very difficult. I didn't realize I was really small for my weight class. When you enter boot camp at 5'2", weighing about 115 pounds, you're pretty much on a small scale of what we do. Because you're packed 70 pounds or higher, you're essentially carrying 70% of your weight. It's a lot, and you have to go a long distance. And then if you have to do any carrying of somebody, a lot of the guys you carry tend to be bigger and stronger than you and taller than you. So physically, it's one of the hardest things for me. So what I did is I put on a lot of weight. I just spent a lot of time in gym. I ran a lot. I was putting about 30 miles a week. Minimum, I was running 3 to 5 miles a day. I put roughly about maybe 2 hours in the gym because I want to compete and I want to win in the Marine Corps. And to only do that, I just need to get stronger, faster, and I just need to get better in everything else. What is the scariest moment in the Marine Corps? I'm scared all the time. I'm always nervous. I'm always afraid. The reason why I'm always scared, nervous, and afraid is I just don't want to fail. I don't want to be a disappointment. When you're the first Cambodian officer, a lot of eyes, a pride of a ethnic group, civilizations out there. There's young boys and girls from Cambodia living everywhere around the world. And when they see me, I want to be that beacon of hope for them. As difficult as the Marine Corps is. So as a result, that pressure, it become very scary for me. I'm a Marine. And that's the greatest feeling in the world.
My name is Gorntia So. I'm a Sergeant E5 in the United States Army Reserves. I grew up in Lexington, North Carolina. My family came here when they came from Sok Khmer. My mom, she moved to New Mexico at first, and then her family grew up in Santa Ana, California, which I lived for the 5 years of my life. My mom, she didn't really talk much about what happened in Sok Khmer, but I would ask my grandparents and their story about what happened. And my grandfather, he was actually in the military. He was a soldier, and they had a photo of him. And when they raided the house, my grandma, she had to hide it. If they would have found it, then my family would have, got murdered. But my grandfather, now he's into politics and he's into all about, helping the community. And him being in the military, he's very prideful of me, and he still wants me to be in, until I retire. I grew up with the older crowd, and I wanted to follow the wrong footsteps. But then I saw a commercial actually on TV about joining the Army. There was a recruiter at my school, my senior year. He was a National Guard recruiter. I spoke with him. He gave me all these options and benefits and was telling me about the National Guard. So I wanted to do something in my life. And I also needed a challenge, so I spoke with him, and that's when I decided to take the ASVAB. And I was like, this is something that I want to do and something that I feel like it's gonna benefit me in the long run. And that's why I joined. I didn't really speak with my family about it. I just told them what I wanted to do, and some of them were very supportive, some of them weren't, and they saw how excited that I was, and they were gonna support me into the end, no matter how many years I stay in. The Army has different branches within the Army. So you have active duty, you have reserves, and you have the National Guard. So National Guard, so if you have any state disasters, they'll alert the National Guard. I joined in 2007, a month into my senior year. A week after graduation, I got shipped off to basic training. I went to Fort Jackson. My position now, I'm the operations sergeant, and also I cover down for supply and maintenance. What I love about my position is being a leader to my soldiers, to have someone actually listen to you and understand and give you advice and put themselves in your shoes. That's what I continue to do and want to do, and that's what helped me through all those years with depression, with PTSD, even until now. I've been deployed twice, 2010 to Iraq and then 2012 to Kuwait. Iraq is, you get murdered all the time. When you get murdered, you hear incoming and you hear, bombs going off or EOD saying they're gonna detonate. During holidays, you get attacked. Our parents came over here with nothing, not knowing English, and they had this, basically start over and come to a country that they have no idea about, nothing about. And so growing up, in school, my mother, she couldn't help me with homework or anything. Me and my mother, we're very close. She still worries about me to this day. There were times in my life where I feel like I shouldn't be here, but by the grace of, a higher power, I am here for a purpose and for a reason. And that's to share my experience or share my story with others to help shine light on their life and let them know, hey, you're not alone. We deal with soldiers and leaders from different backgrounds. They come from different walks of life. And in order for you to be a leader, you have to show compassion. You have to be open-minded and understanding. You know, I'm very prideful when I wear my uniform. Not only do I represent Americans, but also Asian Americans. This is who I am, and I take pride in putting my uniform on every day.
Hi, I'm Van Tan. I am the co-owner of Phnom Penh Noodle Shack in Long Beach and Rice String Noodle Shack in Cerritos, California.
My name is Molino Tan, and I'm the co-owner of Phnom Penh Noodle Shack. It's just like this home feeling, this comforting feeling that I want them to experience.
It's crazy how far we've come.
Food is everything. That's why I love doing it, is I can eat noodles every day.
Well, welcome to the collage of the Noodle Shack. These pictures that we have up on the wall is basically the history of the Noodle Shack, and especially the founding members of the Noodle Shack. In the center, we have a picture of my aunts and my dad. My aunts, they were the ones to establish the Noodle Shack back in 1985. They got here before my family did. They got the ball rolling. Small little place, it had 5 tables. Put it in with my aunt or uncle or my dad, right? And they would yell it across the room. There was no computers, no ticket, no nothing. It was just all word of mouth, all yelling. Going back, 1984, my aunts, they started the shop. I was born in a refugee camp with, my immediate family. Eventually, my family, we got sponsored to come to the US. We arrived there in '84. When we got here, my parents didn't really step into the shack. There wasn't room yet. Did whatever they could to survive, put a roof over our heads, put food on the table. Eventually, a spot opened up. My dad jumped on the opportunity. He became, I guess, the face of the restaurant. People knew him as Ta Lola. I don't know if you guys know that, for the OGs, for the people who've been coming out here since day one, that's what they know him by, right?
So I started working there when I was 12 years old. I always looked up to my dad. I admired him. He's energetic, he's happy just to be around the people there.
And that's what I loved about the restaurant, it was the people.
And just the whole environment, I just felt like, man, this is something that I wanted to do.
My dad, eventually, down the road, he wanted to go on a spiritual hiatus. Drop everything. And when I say drop everything, he wanted to drop work, the restaurant, the family also.
Even though my dad did abuse me, I felt like he really do love me. He did it, and he loved me in his own way. And maybe it's not something that I resonated with, but I can sense it. He did care, but it was more of his past traumas that affected his life.
And then after that, he had left to Cambodia and had my mom take over the restaurant. And so she had to be the rock for us and learn everything and try to keep this restaurant for us. There were days where I wanted to give up, and I had conversations with my mom like, Mom, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't want to work like you. Like the way she worked every day, what I saw her do was just traumatizing for me, because she would just work and work and work and forget about her life. And it's hard for her, oh my God, it's hard for me to, oh my God.
2017, my mom, she passed away because of lung cancer she had.
We were kind of already deep into the business and the culture, the community, and everything, that we just felt like if we did that, it was kind of like turning our backs on the community and the people who supported us. Since we were already invested into the first restaurant, we're just like, you know what? There's no point in turning back. There's no point in quitting. So we're just like, you know what? If we're gonna do this, we might as well commit.
We all know our purpose is to just be together and to help each other out. And having Rice Strings now, having 2 locations, having one in San Jose as a franchise, that was challenging, rewarding at the same time. But at this moment in time, if I were to have a child, I would want them to just go to school, stay out of trouble and do what you love. That's really what it is, right? And be happy. That's all that matters.
You know, we had to put this picture up. It's a representation to the fullest of how the shack was, just the vibe and the culture. Like, my dad would just come in, and if you take a really close look, he's like sporting Cambodian sandals. Like, he's working on the floor with those. There's no such thing as non-slip shoes. Like, there's no regulations. We didn't have to deal with the health department to that degree. Like, that's how OG it was.
My name is Charles Song. I was born in Cambodia in a small village right along the border of Cambodian and Vietnam. Now, when I was about 9, we left that village to move into the capital city of Phnom Penh. One day, when I turned about 12, when I walked back from my school at the time with a few other friends, and I heard what appeared to be like somebody throwing a rock. But next thing that I know, it's a big blast sound. That's when I saw my body flew for the first time. It was unreal. It was like in a movie. But then I didn't realize how bad it was until I looked down on my shirt and my right arm, and I see what appeared to be blood gushing out from that. I still didn't really thought it was that bad, but then I looked down on my left side, on my abdomen, when I pulled my shirt up, that's when I saw my intestine came out. Most of us could not afford to go to really good hospital. They took us to what we call a veteran hospital. Not even a single nurse or doctor came. I remember when they put me on that, thought that I was not going to make it. So I keep looking at the clock, on that wall. It keep ticking, and I pray. My oldest brother was rushing in, and that when he kind of go back out for a second, talk to the very same 2 guys. This is we talking about the first responder who just sat there with his ambulance, was talking and laughing and all of that stuff. But for whatever reason, I don't know what he was able, maybe he bribed the guys, I don't know. But by then, that same 2 guys came in, rushed me out. When they pulled me in, I heard that lady was saying that this guy is about to die, this young boy is about to die, he's only have a few minutes left. And from there, I didn't know what's going on until the next day. My family and I went first to really land in Khao Dang camp in early 79. But we managed to survive. 79, 1980, 1981. Every now and then they post on a big board about who will go where and who will be sponsoring and all of that. And we kept looking at the time. We didn't know that one of our brother who fled Vietnam. One day we went to look at the platform, and here it was. We saw his name, and he was looking for us. From there, we contact with him, and we were able to sponsor by him. Our family went on to live in Newport News. We never got used to cold weather. We never got used to snow. Life was so rough back in the East Coast at the time. And then one day when we heard one of my sister friends, they said, come on over to California. California, beautiful, where's all the business is all, and we have a lot of Khmer people over here. At that moment, we know where we're going, so we packed up. So the home that you see today is the beginning of the song's family legacy, I would say. At one time, we had like 15, 16, 17s together, lived under this roof. Yes, in fact, when we move into Long Beach, California, the weather is just like Cambodia, so many Cambodians. So we felt absolutely belong. When we put that money that we saved from that hard-earned, we were able to open that jewelry called Phnom Penh Jewelry. Yeah, at the time we started small, the business was booming. So from that one store, we were able to split up later on to 3 different stores. Store at the corner of Walnut is now owned by my niece, Serena. She took over from there.
First born in a small village in Cambodia called Spien Thom. We were sponsored to Newport News, 1981. And then we heard about the opportunities in California and checked out 1984, 85, something like that. It's a very funny and true story. He was pulled aside during the genocide. It was said he knew everybody in his village, but that one day it was an older woman that pulled him aside and said, "Do you want me to tell you your fortune?" And she was insistent on telling him, "I want to tell you your fortune." And of course, during the genocide, he's thinking, this lady is out of her mind, you know? And he said, "Yeah, go ahead. I mean, if there's no charge." And she held his hand and said, "You're gonna do something really wealthy in clothing and with gold." And at that point, he just kept laughing. He just didn't think anything of it. And sure enough, my dad owned a sweatshop. He was one of the starters, the first. From that, was able to start this now jewelry store. 1989 was when he first started the jewelry store. Well, first, they started at the sweatshop, so we knew how hard it was. We had to just do what we had to do. It was rough for a very long time. We lived off of scraps, but my parents made it happen. Everything was better than being back at home. When we went through war, it was gold that got us through. Gold or silver or some sort of precious items. Money had no monetary value at that time. So because my mom felt that sentiment that if something were to go wrong and we had something, please at least put it into gold where you can trade it if something were to happen again. They didn't want me to go to college. I actually had to forge their signature because I had a scholarship. I had a smooth ride throughout school. I got straight A's. I thought I made them proud that way, you know? I rebelled, went to City College for a few semesters, and I didn't feel that I accomplished anything that way either. Dug deep and thought, you know, if this is what I already know, what else can I do? And that's when I thought to do the wholesale side. With their support, it gave me a different sense of belonging. They made it very clear they wanted me that direction. That's one time I'm really glad I followed. And if you just take a look around, it's stuff that you see from your childhood, right? It's stuff that your parents shared with you. But I can tell you those items are really hard to replicate now because some of the jewelers that were great at it have now since passed. So a lot of times now we have to make custom designs of the same very pieces that were so prominent back then. Being the eldest came with so much burden. It was heavy. We were pushed to do so much only because we had that title. We were the eldest. I had to take care of my siblings as if I was the parent because, as I mentioned, my parents were rarely around. I wish my dad was still here. I know that because of him is why we are in a position that we're in now today. He worked tirelessly. He didn't have time with family. And we were so resentful towards him. And I would always say to myself, why can't my parents be more like other parents, you know? Why are they never here? They were almost non-existent. And then I realized when I had my own family, it was when he sacrificed everything for us. Everything. Like when he passed, he had one trip to Cambodia, one. I think every Cambodian parent wants to see their kid do well. So everyone has their own path. But I know we're doing our best to make them proud and make our own family proud.
My name's Venerable Jared Khai. I was born in Cambodia in 1975. I became a monk especially because my mom, as a Cambodian tradition, the first son in a family to become a monk for their parents. Actually, she asked me to become a monk just 1 year, but I love life as a monk, so I continue to be a monk for 15 years now. I'm from Otaki village along the National Road number 5. I was sponsored by this temple, Wat Sakobarai temple. We have relation with the people here. That's why they asked me to come here to help the temple. The Buddha himself, he's not a creator. He's just a human being, but he is curious about life. He spent years searching for the meaning of life. He believed that everything that happens has a reason. He believed in the cause and an effect. When someone dies, especially the loved one, passed away, there needs to be an arrangement for merit-making ceremony in Buddhism. This merit-making can take place 2 or 3 times in the span of 100 days. It is called the period of mourning, and it can last 100 days. Now, on the 7 days, on the 49th days, and last one is on the 100th day. It is our belief that the soul of the person has moved to another life on the 7th day. So we celebrate that on the 100th day. It is the end of the mourning period. You will have people to come, all the relatives, all the friends to come to the ceremony. The monk will be invited also to preside over the ceremony, do the chanting. In Buddhism, the merit making is to assist the soul of the person, to facilitate them on their journey to go on to another life. And that's the main reason why we do the merit making for the body. The concern, the connection between a Cambodian community among the younger generations. One of the problems is the language. They don't speak the language, they don't understand the language. The only place that can happen, that can help the children to learn the language is at home. If you let go of these responsibilities, you will lose. Even you have the temple, you have the traditions and everything, but language is one of the most important part in our culture. If you lose the language, you lose everything. What happened in our country is a tragedy. Yeah, I lost my uncles and many people are my relatives. People died, people were killed senselessly, It's a sad thing, I think we have to move on. We have to move on, working for a better future.
Sman bong pling chăm chiến linh mình pling tê srei chăm sống đây đại srei ban đam tràn kha năm còn nở chăm đai cùng sman bong pling chăm chiến linh mình pling tê snai tuông chia slum có mình plik đai đây น้องเจ็ดเป็นจีสนายหัวแหลงเมียนตายอ่อนมื่อแนงบองสมังบ่มเพลงเหม็นบ้านกลมสมานมองเพลงจำเจียนิ่งคลักเล่นกระยานจำเตียงอ่องเรื่องเตียงปนมันโดมกอลยานจือจองหน้าไหลมองสิจาขนมเจ็ดเป็นจีสนายงอแหลงมีนตายอ่อนมันแหนงบองสมังบ่มเพลงเหม็นบ้านกลมสมานบ้องเพลงจำเจียนิ่งคลายเพลนกระยานจำเตียงอ่องเรื่องเตียงปนมันสมกอลยานจุจองหน้าไหล